Ironhold mining station floated above the dusty orange surface of Vortan 3, like a giant iron beetle clinging to a rock. It was not a beautiful place. Its long metal halls were scratched from years of repairs, and its engines hummed in a slow, tired rhythm. But to many travelers and workers, it was home. A small, stubborn piece of human territory in a dangerous part of the galaxy. Most days were quiet. Workers loaded ore crates, drones carried tools, and engineers checked engine status screens. Nothing exciting usually happened. But on this particular morning, something unusual walked through the main hangar doors, something that made every single person stop what they were doing. Kyle arrived first. He was a tall human with dark hair, broad shoulders, and soft eyes that always looked tired from long shifts. His clothes were simple, a gray mechanic jacket, boots with scratched toes, and a belt carrying tools worn from years of work. Kyle was known for fixing anything, broken engines, jammed doors, or even a panicking coworker during emergencies. People trusted him. But no one looked at Kale when he entered. Everyone looked at the being who walked beside him. Her name was Sarakar, and she was a Drakari, a rare dragon-like alien with shimmering metal-tinted scales that shifted in color depending on the light. Her wings were folded tight against her back, and her long tail moved gently across the floor. Her golden eyes burned softly, but there was no anger in them, only exhaustion. She was pregnant. Her belly glowed faintly with warm light, the sign that her children were close to hatching. The scales around her sides pulsed in soft waves, a natural part of Drakari gestation. Any alien expert could see the truth. Sarakar needed food, rest, and safety. But Ironhold Station had never hosted a Drakari before. The noise of the hangar stopped completely. A drone froze mid-flight. A crate loader clanked to silence. Even the workers who always talked during their shifts suddenly became quiet. No one knew what to do. Kyle didn't blame them. Drakari were legends. Stories said they were fierce, powerful, and proud. Some people believed they were dangerous. Others said they were peaceful, but misunderstood. Few humans had ever even seen one. Kyle raised his hand in a friendly gesture. "It's all right," he said with a small smile. "She's with me." Sarakar leaned gently against his side. Her breath was slow, heavy, and warm. She had walked a long distance from their small transport ship, and every step seemed more difficult. Kyle lowered his voice. "Just a little more, Sarah. We're almost to the foreman's office." Sarakar nodded. Her voice was soft, almost musical. "I trust you, Kale. Lead the way." Her words surprised a few workers. Many had expected a deep roar or a harsh alien hiss. Instead, she spoke gently, like a tired mother trying her best to stay calm. Kyle guided her through the hangar, and slowly the station returned to life. Distant whispers rose behind them. "Is that a dragon? I didn't know they were real. Why is she glowing? She looks like she's about to collapse. Should we call security?" Kyle ignored the whispers. He wasn't offended. Humans were curious and cautious. That was normal. And Sarakar had been through far worse than surprised stares. When they reached the inner hallway, Kale pressed the console, and the door slid open with a hiss. The hallway lights flickered for a moment, as if the station itself was startled by its unusual visitors. Sarakar blinked at the lights. "Your station is bright." "It hurts your eyes?" Kale asked gently. "No, it just feels different. Human places always feel awake." Kale laughed softly. "Trust me, Ironhold is barely awake most days." She gave a small smile, though her breathing was still heavy. They continued forward, and Kale finally reached a door marked Foreman Marcus Hale, authorized personnel only. Kale pressed the buzzer twice. Inside, a deep voice called out, "Come in!" The door opened, and Foreman Marcus Hale stood behind his desk, staring in disbelief as Sarah Carr stepped through the doorway. The foreman was a thick-built man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Normally he was calm, but now his eyebrows lifted almost to his forehead. "Kyle, you did not warn me you were bringing a dragon into my office." "She's not a dragon," Kyle corrected. "She's Drakari." "Those two words feel very similar from where I'm standing," Hale muttered. Sarah Carr bowed her head slightly. "I mean no harm, Foreman Hale. I am simply hungry." She spoke the last word with clear struggle, as if ashamed. Hale blinked. "Hungry?" "Yes," Cale said quickly. "Her gestation period needs a lot of nutrition. Her body is using most of her energy to support the eggs. She hasn't eaten properly in days." Hale cursed under his breath, then shook his head. "And you brought her here because humans don't turn away someone who needs help," Kyle said simply. "And because she trusted me to find a safe place." Sarah Carr lowered herself to the floor, her wings trembling. "Forgive my weakness. Travel has been difficult. The Syndicate patrols forced us to take hidden routes." Hale's expression changed at once. The Vrax Syndicate was a name no one liked hearing. They were known for hunting rare species, especially pregnant ones. "I see," Hale said quietly. "Then you coming here makes more sense than I hoped." Cale nodded. "We didn't have many options left." The foreman rubbed his face, then looked at Sarah Carr with a softer gaze. "You're safe here. I'm not the kind of man who sends a mother back into danger." Sarah Carr exhaled with relief, her glowing belly rising and falling slowly. "Thank you," she whispered. Hale tapped his console. "I'll arrange a private room for her. Temperature-controlled, quiet, and food, lots of it. But I need to know what she can eat." "I can prepare the right mix," Kyle said. "I studied her biology on the way." Hale stared at him. "You studied alien biology in one day?" Cale shrugged modestly. "I read fast." Hale sighed. "Why am I not surprised?" He stood up and walked around the desk. "All right, let's get her settled. Then we'll talk more about these Syndicate patrols. If they're chasing her, we need to be ready." Kyle felt a weight lift from his chest. He gently helped Sarah Carr stand. But when Hale opened the door to lead them out, something strange happened. The hallway lights flickered again, once, twice, then returned to normal. Kyle frowned. "That didn't happen earlier." Hale paused, watching the ceiling. "It's probably just a power relay misbehaving. This station is old." But Sarah Carr slowly shook her head. "No," she whispered. "That was not a malfunction." Her golden eyes widened. Kyle asked softly, "Sarah, what is it?" She placed a clawed hand against the wall. The scales along her arm brightened briefly, pulsing like a heartbeat. "I sense something," she said slowly. "Something unfamiliar. Something watching." Hale stiffened. "Watching? From where?" Sarah Carr looked down the empty hallway. "I do not know," she said. "But the moment we stepped into this station, something else did too." A cold silence filled the room. Kyle's heart beat faster, Hale's jaw tightened, and Sarah Carr's wings trembled as a low, uneasy hum spread through the station's metal walls, a sound no human ear could detect, but one every Drakari knew too well. Danger had followed them, and it was closer than any of them realized. Ironhold Station never felt quiet. There was always the sound of engines, metal doors sliding open, workers shouting from different levels, and the humming of machines. But after Sarah Carr's arrival, Kyle noticed something new, a strange tension in the air. People walked slower. They whispered more, and they kept looking over their shoulders as if expecting trouble at any moment. Kyle tried to ignore the strange feeling, but Sarah Carr felt it more clearly than he did. Kyle had arranged a private resting room for her, a warm chamber near the engineering bay where temperature could be controlled and noise was low. The room smelled like fresh metal and clean air. Sarah Carr liked it. She said it felt safe in a simple human way. But the real problem began only 2 hours after she settled in. Kyle returned from a short maintenance shift carrying a tray of special food mix he prepared for her. It was a thick, glowing blend of minerals, heavy proteins, and concentrated nutrients. Exactly what a pregnant Drakari needed to stay strong. When he entered the hallway leading to Sarah Carr's room, he could already sense something was off. 2 storage workers stood at the end of the corridor, whispering to each other with uncomfortable expressions on their faces. Kyle frowned. "Everything okay?" Both workers flinched like they were caught doing something wrong. One shook her head quickly. Nothing. Just a small issue with inventory." Kyle raised an eyebrow but didn't push the matter. He continued walking to Sarah Carr's door and pressed the panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Sarah Carr looked up from the nesting pads Kale arranged for her. Her scales glowed faintly from her sides, but her eyes looked tired, more tired than before. "You're late," she said softly, though her voice had no anger, only concern. Kale smiled lightly. "Sorry, had to fix a jammed loader, but I brought food." She smiled weakly, but when Kale placed the tray down, her smile faded. Her nostrils flared slightly. "There should be more." Kale blinked. "More." Sarah Carr nodded slowly. "The scent is correct. The formula is right. But the quantity is not enough." She paused. "You promised 3 full trays." Kyle froze. He had prepared 3 full trays, and he had placed them all in the refrigeration unit set aside for her. He checked the tray again. Only 1. His stomach dropped. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said quietly. "I'll check the storage. Something must have gone wrong." Sarah Carr tried to hide her disappointment, but her wings drooped slightly. "It is not your fault. Please, hurry." Kyle ran out of the room and headed straight for the storage area. The storage room door was slightly open when he arrived. That was unusual. Ironhold Station had strict rules. Storage doors were always closed unless someone was inside. Kale pushed the door open and stepped in. The room smelled like cold metal and packaged minerals. Rows of crates lined the walls, labeled neatly with numbers and scan codes. Kyle went straight for the special nutrient cabinet he used earlier. When he opened it, he felt his chest tighten. 2 trays were missing. The containers he had prepared were still there, but empty. Someone had opened them and scraped out every bit of Sarah Carr's food. Kale's jaw clenched. This wasn't an accident. Someone had stolen the food. He quickly checked the cabinet system logs. The last access entry read, "Access override. Unregistered user, no name, no ID, just a blank override." Kyle swore under his breath. Only a skilled technician or someone with stolen authorization codes could do this. As he turned to leave, he almost bumped into Foreman Hale standing at the doorway, arms crossed and a worried look on his face. "You look like you found something," Hale said quietly. Kale nodded. 2 food trays are gone. Someone erased the access logs, too." Hale's expression darkened. "Show me." Kyle pulled up the log file. Hale stared at the blank override entry for several seconds. "That's not a glitch," Hale said. "Someone did this on purpose." "Sarah Carr needs that food," Kale said angrily. "She's weak, hungry, and we promised her safety." Hale rubbed his chin. "I don't think anyone here means her harm. But fear makes people do stupid things. They see a large, glowing alien and panic." Kale shook his head. "Fear doesn't erase logs. Someone is hiding." Hale's eyes hardened. "You're right." He walked to the center of the room and pressed the comm button on his wrist. "Hale to security. Lock down the storage wing. No one enters or leaves until I say so." "Yes, sir," came a voice through the speaker. Kale frowned. You think the thief is still nearby? Maybe, Hale answered. Or maybe they'll panic when they realize we're watching. Kyle looked back at the empty containers. Why steal her food? It's useless to humans. Hale sighed. Maybe someone wanted to weaken her. Kale's heart dropped. But why? She hasn't harmed anyone. Because frightened people often think danger is coming, even when it isn't, Hale said. Kale swallowed hard. Then we need to feed her even faster. Hale nodded. Come on, let's make more food, and this time we won't store it in a place others can reach. Kale prepared new trays by hand, mixing ingredients carefully, watching every measurement. He didn't speak much. His mind kept circling the same questions. Who would want to starve Sarikar? Who had access codes? And what were they trying to stop? When he returned to Sarikar's room with 3 fresh trays, she lifted her head with relief. Thank you, she whispered. Kyle sat beside her as she began to eat. She didn't eat like a predator. She ate slowly, carefully, almost gracefully, as if respecting the food. He watched the glowing light along her belly brighten. That meant the eggs inside her were absorbing nutrition properly. Sarikar paused and looked at him. Kyle, something troubles you. You try to hide it, but your face speaks louder than your words. Kyle hesitated, then sighed. Someone stole your earlier food. Sarikar curled her tail closer to herself, her wings shifting in unease. I feared something like that, she murmured. Humans are brave, but fear still lives in many hearts. Kyle shook his head. It's not fear. It feels like sabotage. Sarikar looked at him with deep gold eyes. I am sorry to bring danger to your home. This is your home too now, Kale said firmly. For a moment, Sarikar simply stared at him as if trying to understand a strange new type of loyalty. Then she whispered, You humans. You protect so strongly. Before Kale could answer, the lights flickered again. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. A cold shiver ran down Sarikar's spine. Kale stood. That's not normal. Sarikar rose slowly, her scales glowing brighter. It is the same feeling as before. Something watching. Something close. A loud alarm suddenly echoed through the hallway. Alert. Unauthorized ship detected near Ironhold Station. All crew to positions. This is not a drill. Kale's heart pounded. Sarikar closed her eyes and whispered, They have found us. Who? Kale asked. Sarikar opened her eyes, fear shining in them for the first time. The Vrax Syndicate, she said. They want my children. Kale froze. Foreman Hale's voice burst through the station's speakers, sharp and urgent. All workers to defensive positions. Unknown ships are surrounding us. Prepare lockdown. Kyle turned toward Sarikar. She was trembling, not from hunger this time, but from dread. And somewhere deep inside the mining station, unseen by any of them, something metallic clicked into place, like a predator preparing to strike. The danger was no longer hiding. It had arrived. The alarm echoed through every hallway of Ironhold Station. Red lights flashed above doorways, and the metal floor vibrated with the strong hum of the station's defense systems powering up. Workers rushed in every direction, shouting to one another, while machines shut down automatically to preserve energy for shields and weapons. But inside Sarikar's chamber, the world felt strangely quiet. Kyle stood frozen for several seconds, listening to the announcement repeating over the speakers. Unknown ships detected. All crew to defensive positions. Sarikar lowered her head, her wings curling inward. The soft glow of her scales dimmed with fear. They have come sooner than I expected, she whispered. Kyle turned to her quickly. Sarah, who exactly is out there? Sarikar exhaled slowly, as if the air itself felt heavy. The Vrak Syndicate, hunters. They follow Drakari like shadows across the stars. Kyle's heart tightened. But how did they find you? Sarikar closed her eyes. They smell the energy of my children. My unborn hatchlings produce a rare type of light. The Vraks use it to power their machines. Kyle felt cold all over. They use hatchlings? That's cruel, Sarikar said softly. Yes, but the Syndicate does not care. To them, life is fuel. Kyle stepped closer and placed a careful hand on her forearm. We won't let them touch you, or your children. Sarikar looked at him with deep, trembling gold eyes. Kyle, humans do not understand the danger. The Vraks do not ask. They take. Kyle shook his head. They can try, but Ironhold isn't weak, and humans never run from trouble. Before Sarikar could answer, the door to her chamber slid open with a sharp hiss. Foreman Hale rushed inside, breathing hard, sweat forming on his forehead. Kale, Sarikar, come with me, now. Sarikar struggled to stand. Kale immediately stepped to her side, supporting her weight. Hale motioned urgently. Security detected boarding signals. The Vraks haven't fired yet. They're trying to get inside quietly. Kale frowned. Quietly? Why? Hale scowled. Because they want her alive. Shooting the station might harm her or the eggs, and Vrak ships can cut metal like paper when they want to. Sarikar shivered. Their methods have not changed. Hale led them into the hallway. It was dimly lit, flashing red with workers locking doors, sealing crates, and setting up emergency barriers. Where are we going? Kyle asked. The engineering bay, Hale answered. It's the strongest room on the station, and has only one entrance. If we're attacked, we can bottleneck them there. Sarikar moved slowly, her heavy belly making each step harder. Kale supported her without hesitation. The hallway felt too long, too quiet. Every echo sounded like footsteps. Every flicker of light felt like a sign of danger. When they finally reached the engineering bay door, Hale pressed a security code. The thick metal door opened, and they stepped inside. The large room was filled with engine cores, power cables, and vibrating machinery. Several technicians were already hiding behind equipment, holding tools like weapons. Hale shut the door firmly. We're in lockdown now, he said. No one enters without my clearance. Kyle settled Sarikar onto a reinforced resting pad near the back of the room. You're safe here, he whispered. Sarikar lowered her wings, but fear still glowed in her eyes. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time felt strange. Kyle paced back and forth, listening to distant metallic thuds as the station's outer hull vibrated with pressure. Hale stood near the control panel, watching the monitors with a stern expression. Suddenly, one of the monitors flashed. Internal breach. Deck 4, hallway B-17. A younger technician gasped. That's close to the storage wing. Kyle's stomach tightened. That's where someone stole Sarikar's food. Hale nodded grimly. Which means the Vraks already had someone inside. A spy. Sarikar lowered her head. I felt the Watcher earlier. I should have warned you. Kale shook his head. You did warn me. We just didn't understand the danger. The alarm switched again. Breach detected. Deck 4. Moving toward engine bay, Kale's hands curled into fists. They're coming here. The technicians picked up welding torches, metal rods, and heavy repair tools. They looked frightened, but none ran away. Hale took a deep breath. Everyone stay behind cover. We're not soldiers, but we know this station better than anyone. Use the tools. Use the machines. We hold this door until reinforcements arrive. Kyle positioned himself near the door, gripping a heavy metal wrench, his favorite tool, and now his weapon. Sarikar watched him, her eyes reflecting worry and gratitude. Kale, please be careful. He smiled at her softly. Always. Then the first loud, sharp noise echoed through the hallway outside. Clang, clang, clang. Something heavy was striking the door. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper. "Everyone ready?" The metallic pounding grew louder, sharper, more focused. Then a thin line of bright light appeared on the door. A cutting torch. Someone was slicing through the metal. Hale's heart pounded in his ears. The cut spread slowly, sparks flying. Then the entire center of the door was kicked inward, crashing onto the floor. A tall figure stepped through the smoke. The intruder wore dark armor with glowing blue lines. The signature armor of the Vrax Syndicate. Its helmet had a jagged shape, like a cruel smile carved into metal. It held no gun, only a hooked blade made of shimmering black alloy. Behind it, more armored figures stepped into view. Kyle's grip tightened on his wrench. Hale shouted, "Defend the room!" The fight exploded at once. The Vrax charged. The technicians fought with everything they had: welding flames, heavy spanners, cutting tools. Sparks flew in every direction. Hale swung his wrench at an armored arm, knocking the blade away. Another blow caught the intruder's helmet, cracking its visor. The creature hissed in pain, stumbling back. Hale used a mining drill like a spear, driving it into another attacker's shoulder. But the Vrax were fast, strong, trained for combat. Kyle yelled over the noise, "Hale, there are too many!" Hale gritted his teeth. "Just slow them down! Keep them away from Sarikar!" But Sarikar, trembling on her nest, felt something else. Not fear, not panic. A deeper, older instinct. Her children, her eggs, were reacting. The glow beneath her scales grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. Kyle noticed. "Sarah, what's happening?" Sarikar whispered. "My hatchlings feel danger. They are calling to me." Her scales spread a protective energy field around her, a shimmering bubble of light. A Vrax soldier noticed the glow and lunged toward her. Kale saw it and ran, tackling the attacker before he reached her. The two crashed onto the metal floor. The Vrax soldier raised his blade, but Kale blocked it with the wrench, sparks flying near his face. Hale swung the mining drill to knock the attacker aside. Another intruder entered the room, raising a strange device glowing blue. Sarikar gasped. "That is an extractor! They mean to steal my children!" Kyle jumped to his feet. "Like hell they will!" Before the Vrax could activate the device, the station shook violently. A deep rumble echoed through the walls, the sound of Ironhold's outer defense cannons firing at last. Hale looked at the monitors. "Reinforcements are here! Our ships are pushing the Vrax back!" The Vrax fighters hesitated. A few stepped back toward the broken doorway. Kyle shouted, "They're retreating!" But one Vrax soldier refused to leave. He charged straight toward Sarikar with the extractor device raised high. Sarikar cried out in fear. Kyle ran, but he wasn't fast enough. Then something unexpected happened. Sarikar's body glowed bright gold, and a wave of warm, shimmering energy burst outward. It knocked the attacker off his feet, sending him sliding across the floor. Kale stared, stunned. "Sarah, you protected yourself," Sarikar panted, weak but determined. "My children protect me, as I protect them." The remaining Vrax soldiers retreated, dragging their injured with them. A final alarm sounded. Vrax boarding party retreating, hull breach sealed, defensive victory confirmed. Hale exhaled heavily and lowered the drill. We survived." Kale rushed to Sarikar's side. "Are you all right?" She nodded weakly. "For now." Kale looked at Hale with worry. "They'll come again, won't they?" Hale nodded grimly. "Yes. They didn't get what they wanted." Sarikar placed a clawed hand gently over her belly. "And they will not stop," she whispered. But neither would the humans. Not now. Not ever. The silent siege had ended, but the real war had only begun. The battle smoke slowly faded inside the engineering bay, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy and tense. Broken tools lay scattered across the floor, sparks flickered from a damaged power panel, and the faint smell of burning metal drifted through the room like a warning that the danger was not over. Kyle knelt beside Sarah, gently checking her breathing. Her chest rose and fell slowly. She was awake, but exhausted. The protective glow around her belly faded, leaving only a soft shimmer. "You did well," Kyle whispered. "You protected yourself and your children." Sarah tried to smile, but her wings trembled from weakness. "I did nothing alone. You and your people, you stood for me." Kale shook his head. "We stood with you." Foreman Hale wiped sweat from his forehead and looked around the room. Some technicians were hurt, but none were dead. Considering the strength of the Virax, that was a miracle. Hale spoke in a rough, tired voice. "We need to move her. This room won't hold another attack." Kyle frowned. "Where can we go? This was the strongest place." Hale pointed to the far corner of the room. "The deep core chamber." Kyle blinked. "The deep core? That's practically the heart of the station." "Exactly," Hale said. "Thickest walls on Ironhold. Only one entrance. And most importantly, it's powered. She'll be safe." Sarah tried to stand, but her legs shook. Her pregnancy was reaching a critical stage. She needed food, warmth, and calm, none of which Ironhold was offering right now. Kale rushed to her side. "Easy! Don't push yourself." Sarah lowered her head gratefully. "I am sorry. My body, it grows heavier by the hour." Hale called for a stretcher, a large, reinforced one usually used to carry engine coils. 4 workers lifted it and carefully placed cushions on top for Sarah. She looked embarrassed, but Kale smiled softly. "Let them help, Sarah. You've helped us too." Her tail curled slightly, showing she accepted his words. The journey to the deep core chamber was tense. Red lights still flashed in the hallways, and every shadow looked like a potential attacker. But the humans moved with purpose. Miners who normally carried ore now carried weapons improvised from their tools. Engineers who usually repaired engines now guarded doors with welding torches. Ironhold was not a military base, but today it felt like one. As they walked, workers stared at Sarah with new expressions. Not fear this time, but respect. Some even nodded to her. One older miner said, "Don't worry, miss. We'll keep you safe." A young technician added, "You protected Mr. Kale, so now we protect you." Sarah seemed surprised by their kindness. "Humans, you fight with such heart," Hale chuckled. "We're stubborn, and Kale's our man. Anyone he protects, we protect." Kale felt a warm pride rising in his chest. When they reached the deep core chamber, Hale entered a code. The massive door opened slowly, revealing a round room glowing with soft blue light. The central fusion core hummed quietly, sending warm air through the chamber. "It's warm," Sarah whispered in relief. Kyle smiled. "Good. You need that." The workers gently placed the stretcher near the core, where the warmth was strongest. Sarah settled down, exhaling deeply. Her scales glimmered softly, reacting to the stable environment. Hale spoke through his communicator. "Lock down this chamber. Double the guards. I don't want a single unauthorized person within 2 levels of this room." "Yes, sir," the voice replied. Kale checked Sarah's pulse and breathing again. She was stable, for now, but he saw worry in her eyes. "What's wrong?" Kale asked. Sarah closed her eyes. "My children are awakening. Hatchlings. Move early when they sense danger." Kale understood the meaning instantly. "You're saying you might give birth soon?" She nodded weakly. "Much sooner than expected." Hale overheard this and cursed under his breath. "They're rushing because of the Vrax." Sarah sighed. "A Drakari mother must be calm for safe hatching, but fear around us is strong." Kyle placed his hand gently on hers. You're not alone. We'll make this room peaceful for you. Sarakar looked at him gratefully. You always say such kind things. It's not kindness, Kale said softly. It's the truth. Hours passed. Outside the chamber, distant explosions shook the station as Ironhold's defense ships forced the Vrax blockade to retreat. But the station still trembled from time to time, reminding everyone that the danger was not gone. Inside the deep core chamber, Kyle and a small group of workers stayed with Sarakar. They set up heaters, placed soft lights around her, and even brought blankets to block cold drafts. One worker brewed warm mineral tea, harmless for humans, helpful for Drakari. Sarakar drank slowly. Your people, they do not treat me like a burden. Kale smiled. Because you're not. Hale entered the chamber again, looking exhausted but determined. We pushed the Syndicate ships back. They've lost 3 vessels. Kale exhaled in relief. So they're leaving? Hale shook his head. Not yet. They're circling at a distance. But they're scared now. They didn't expect us to fight this hard. Sarakar lifted her head. Humans fight with heart, not numbers. Hale smiled at her. Thank you. But we're not done. They want you. And they will come again. Kale stepped forward. Then we'll be ready. Hale nodded. Exactly. So here's the plan. He activated a small projector in the center of the room. A hologram of the station appeared, glowing blue. Hale pointed to several red dots outside the station. These are the remaining Vrax ships. They're waiting for an opening. Kale frowned. What kind of opening? One they can create, Hale answered. They know our defenses. They know our weak points. And they know we're protecting someone important. He paused, then spoke more softly. But what they don't know is how far we'll go to protect her. Sarakar stared at him, her eyes shimmering. You are risking much for me and my unborn children. Hale crossed his arms. You think we'd let the Syndicate take you? Not a chance. A worker added from the corner. We're Ironhold. We don't lose our people. Sarakar touched her chest softly. You speak as if I am human. Kale stepped beside her. You're not human. You're better. Sarakar looked at him with deep affection, but said nothing. Suddenly the station shook again, harder this time. Lights flickered. Tools on shelves rattled. Kyle grabbed the edge of the stretcher. What was that? Hale received a message in his communicator. He listened for a moment, then swore loudly. The Vrax are testing our shields. They're scanning the station to find her location. Sarakar tensed. Their scanners can sense the energy of my children. We cannot hide. Kyle clenched his jaw. Then we need to fight. Hale nodded, fire returning to his eyes. Already planning for it. He turned to the workers. Prep the auxiliary lasers, redirect coolant, charge the shield walls, and get me every pilot we have left. Workers rushed out of the room immediately. Kale stepped closer to Hale. What about me? Hale looked at him with a firm expression. Stay here. She needs you. Kale wanted to argue, but Sarakar touched his hand gently. Kale, please, stay with me. Her voice was trembling, not from fear of the Vrax, but fear for him. Kale nodded. Of course. Hale stepped out of the chamber, closing the heavy door behind him. Only Kale and 2 workers remained with Sarakar. The room grew quiet again. Kale sat beside her, his back against the warm core. Sarakar watched him, her eyes soft. Why do your people fight for me so hard? Kale answered without hesitation. Because you trusted us, and we don't break trust. Sarakar lowered her head. Then I trust you with my life. Kale swallowed, emotions rising in his throat. I won't fail you. Sarakar closed her eyes and listened to the quiet hum of the core. You won't, she whispered. And outside the chamber, Ironhold Station prepared for the greatest battle of its life. The Vraks were coming, and humanity was ready. The deep core chamber was quiet, too quiet. The warm hum of the fusion core filled the air, but outside the thick walls, the entire station felt tense, like a creature holding its breath before a great storm. Kyle sat beside Sarah Carr, watching her carefully. Her scales glowed softly, but the light pulsed in uneven rhythms now. Her breathing was faster. Her wings twitched. "Sarah?" Kyle whispered. "Are you okay?" Sarah Carr opened her eyes, and Kale immediately saw something new in them, a mixture of fear, strength, and ancient instinct. "It is time," she whispered. Kyle's heart jumped. "Time? You mean—" "Yes," Sarah Carr said, closing her eyes tightly. "My children are coming." Kyle tried to stay calm, but excitement and worry mixed inside him. "I'll get the workers." The two workers guarding the chamber hurried over, their eyes wide. "Is she—" one asked. Kyle nodded. "Yes. The hatchlings are on their way." The workers exchanged nervous looks, but quickly began preparing the room, bringing extra blankets, warm lamps, and water. They moved quietly, careful not to disturb Sarah Carr. Outside the chamber, the station suddenly shook. A deep boom echoed through the floor, making tools rattle on the shelves. Kyle looked toward the door. "What was—" Then Hale's voice burst through the communicator. "Vrak ships incoming. They're launching a full attack. Everyone to battle positions." The deep core walls vibrated with the force of the first strike. Sarah Carr flinched but whispered, "Kyle, stay with me." Kyle moved closer, gripping her claw gently. "I'm here." Another explosion shook the station. The Vraks had returned, and this time they were not hiding. Outside the deep core chamber, chaos had erupted across Ironhold Station. Foreman Hale ran through the command deck, shouting orders. "Fire the forward cannons, redirect shield power to the east wing, and someone get me a visual on that flagship." Smoke filled the hallways as humans scrambled to defend their home. Auxiliary lasers fired again and again, leaving bright trails in space. Human pilots in small fighter ships launched from the hangar, shooting toward the Syndicate blockade. But the Vraks were prepared. Their ships glowed with blue energy, slicing through space with deadly speed. Heavy beams of light struck Ironhold's shields, shaking the entire station violently. Inside the deep core chamber, Sarah Carr groaned in pain. Kyle held her hand tighter. "It's okay. I'm right here." Sarah Carr's breathing grew heavier. The glow along her scales brightened, lighting the room in soft gold. "My children, they feel the danger," she whispered. "They hurry to be born." Kyle glanced at the doorway. "Hale will stop the Vraks." He promised. Sarah Carr smiled weakly. "Your people are stronger than they look." Kale chuckled nervously. "You have no idea." Another explosion shook the entire chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sarah Carr exhaled sharply. "Kale, it is happening." Her body tensed. The glowing light around her belly grew brighter, filling the chamber with warm heat. Kale nodded quickly. Okay, just breathe. I'm here." The two workers stood ready with blankets, their faces pale but determined. Sarah Carr released a soft, trembling roar, not loud or violent, but full of pain and instinct. Kale squeezed her hand. "You're doing great, Sarah." Her eyes watered. "Kale, I am scared." "I know," he whispered, "but you're stronger than the fear." Outside the chamber, Hale shouted over the loudspeakers, "All units, protect the deep core at all costs. Do not let the Vraks near it." Sarah Carr's eyes widened. "They are coming for me." Kale shook his head. "They won't touch you. Not while we're here." The station shook again as the Vraks made their strongest push yet. Dozens of enemy fighters surrounded Ironhold, firing rapid blue beams. Human ships dodged and counterattacked, but the enemy numbers kept growing. On the command deck, Hale slammed his fist onto the console. "Where are they getting reinforcement ships?" A technician shouted. "3 more Vrax cruisers approaching!" Another boom. Another section of the station went dark. Hale knew the truth. Ironhold could not survive much longer. But they couldn't give up. Not with Sarikar inside. Not with the hatchlings coming. "Hold the line," he shouted. "For Ironhold! For humanity!" Back in the deep core chamber, the air grew warmer. Sarikar was shaking now, her claws digging into the cushioning. Her body glowed bright gold, lighting the entire chamber. A low rumbling sound came from her chest, the ancient call of a Drakari mother. Kyle spoke gently. "It's okay. Just keep breathing." Sarikar cried out, her scales flashing with brilliant light. One worker whispered, "I see something." Soft light gathered beneath Sarikar's folded wings. A shape moved within the glow. Small, forming, alive. Kyle leaned forward, his heart pounding. Slowly, gently, the light opened like a flower. A small hatchling emerged. It was tiny, no larger than a human baby, with soft scales glowing pale gold. Its wings were folded like silk. Its eyes were closed, but its chest rose and fell with calm breaths. Sarikar sobbed with relief. "My child!" Kyle felt his chest tighten with emotion. "Sarah, it's beautiful!" Sarikar smiled, tears streaming down her face. "One! Only one more!" But before she could continue, the entire station shook so violently that Kale almost fell. A loud explosion echoed through the deep core walls. Hale's voice screamed through the communicator. "All personnel! Vrax breach in Sector A9! They're heading for the core! They're coming for the hatchlings!" Sarikar trembled in fear, curling around her newborn protectively. Kale stood up immediately. "They're coming. We need to protect her." The workers grabbed heavy tools, their faces pale. Kale ran to the door panel and checked the feed. His blood ran cold. Armored Vrax soldiers were moving through the hallway, fast, determined, unstoppable. Kale turned back to Sarikar. "Stay close to the core. Stay warm. Don't move." Sarikar looked terrified. "Kale, you cannot fight them alone." Kale grabbed a metal rod and shook his head. "I'm not alone. Humanity is with you." She stared at him, eyes full of emotion. Outside the door, the footsteps grew louder. The workers took positions. Kale raised his makeshift weapon. The door shook under the pressure of the first strike. Then again, the metal began to dent. Kale whispered, "Come on, come on. Hurry, Hale." The door cracked. A blue blade sliced through. The first Vrax soldier stepped in. Kyle charged. Before the enemy could react, Kale slammed the metal rod into the soldier's helmet, knocking him back. Another Vrax entered. A worker swung a heavy wrench, striking its arm. The chamber filled with shouts, sparks, and metal clashing. Sarikar cried out as another wave of pain hit her. The second hatchling coming. Kale saw a Vrax soldier break through and run toward her. "No!" Kyle yelled. He sprinted forward, crashing into the soldier with all his strength. They tumbled across the floor. The Vrax grabbed Kale's throat. Kale struggled, gasping. Then a bright golden light flashed. Sarikar, trembling but determined, unleashed a pulse of protective energy. The Vrax soldier flew back, hitting the wall so hard the armor cracked. Kale gasped for breath, crawling back to her side. "You saved me," Sarikar whispered. "We save each other." The chamber flashed again. A second hatchling emerged, glowing brighter than the first, crying out softly. Sarikar collapsed weakly, curling around both babies. Kale felt tears in his eyes. "They're perfect." But the fight wasn't over. More Vrax soldiers stepped inside. Kale stood in front of Sarikar and her children, gripping the metal rod tightly. "I won't let you pass," he said. The Vrax raised their weapons. Then a massive explosion shook the hallway. The Vrax soldiers turned. and Ironhold's defenders rushed in. Hale led the charge, swinging a reinforced drill like a battering ram. "We're not letting you touch them!" Hale roared. The workers flooded the room, pushing the Vraks back. The battle ended quickly. The Vraks retreated at last. The Syndicate ships outside turned and fled, their courage shattered by the Humyn's strength. Ironhold had won. When everything finally grew quiet, Kale knelt beside Sarikar. She looked up at him with tired, grateful eyes. "It is finished." Kale smiled softly. "You did it. They're here, and they're safe." Sarikar looked at her hatchlings, two glowing little creatures curled against her chest. Then she whispered, "They will grow, knowing humans saved them." Kale placed a hand over hers. "They will grow with us." Foreman Hale stepped forward, breathing heavily. "Ironhold is now a sanctuary for all Drakari." Sarikar lowered her head in gratitude. "Thank you, all of you." Kale smiled at the hatchlings. Humanity had fought fiercely, and because of that fight, 2 new lives entered the galaxy, born not into fear, but into hope. The danger had passed. The Alliance was born, and Ironhold Station would never be the same again.